An Imperial I-class Star Destroyer packs 27,000 enlisted personnel into mass barracks in the most structurally vulnerable section of the hull. That placement wasn't an oversight. Interior accounts of the Star Destroyer's design describe those crew members as viewed as ultimately expendable. Forget which ship wins the fight. The question that matters, the one nobody in that galaxy ever asks, is which one you could actually live in. 7 criteria. Space per person. Interior volume against crew count, not raw hull length. Privacy. Individual cabins versus shared barracks. Sanitation. Whether a refresher exists and how many people share it. Galley quality. Dedicated cooking and dining space, food storage, variety. Self-sufficiency. How long before the ship needs an external resupply? Structural safety. How vulnerable you are just by sleeping there. And psychological variety. Viewports, color, natural elements, the things that keep a human being from losing their mind after the 40th identical gray corridor. The U.S. Navy formalized something close to this framework in OPNAV Inst. 9640.1c, its shipboard habitability standards. Minimum berthing space per person, sanitary fixture ratios, required dining area. The Galaxy's shipbuilders, almost uniformly, didn't bother. Starting at 10 and working up. The TIE LN Starfighter scores 0 on every criterion. Sinar Fleet Systems, single seat, 7.24 meters long. No hyperdrive, deliberately removed to save weight and to prevent pilot defection. No shields. No life support. The cockpit can't sustain a human being, which is why TIE pilots wear self-contained flight suits connected to vacuum-sealed helmets just to survive a single sortie. The average TIE pilot has a life expectancy of less than a year in service. You aren't living on a TIE fighter. You briefly occupy one before the odds reclaim the seat. At number 9, the T-65B X-Wing, Incom Corporation, 12.5 meters long, total height roughly 2.4 meters. One pilot in a fixed cockpit, one astromech droid in an external socket outside the hull. No standing room, no galley, no refresher mentioned anywhere across 45 years of reference material. Every flight is spent in the same position as a dentist's chair, except this one enters hyperspace and gets shot at by capital ships. The X-Wing destroyed the Death Star. Habitability was never part of the calculation. Number 8. The Imperial I-class Star Destroyer. The instinct is that 1,600 meters should score well on space. The math doesn't support it. At full complement, 9,235 officers, 27,850 enlisted, 9,700 stormtroopers, roughly 47,000 people. Officers are quartered just below the bridge in the command tower. The 27,850 enlisted and embarked troops live in those mass barracks in the hull's midsection. No confirmed viewports for anyone below officer rank. Gray corridors throughout. The ship does carry 2 years of consumables, a genuinely impressive self-sufficiency figure, and Wikipedia's entry on the Imperial I-class confirms recreation areas and training rooms at the second level of the habitable superstructure, including facilities that simulate underwater combat. The infrastructure exists. It just serves 47,000 people inside a hull whose foundational design logic is planetary subjugation and the projection of fear. An Imperial Star Destroyer is an instrument of terror, operated by humans the design treats as components. Number 7. The Millennium Falcon. Yes, that one. Built around 60 years before the Battle of Yavin at Orbital Assembly Facility 7, designated YT-492727ZED, a modified YT-1300 light freighter. 34.52 meters long, minimum crew of 2, 6 passengers, 2 months of consumables. Per person space is technically better than the Star Destroyer. 6 people in 34 meters beats 47,000 in 1,600. That's where the good news ends. 1 confirmed refresher for the entire crew. The most prominent interior furniture, a holographic Dejeric chess table. The primary hyperdrive, an ISU SIM SSP-05 jury-rigged into a Class 0.5 drive, failed repeatedly across The Empire Strikes Back. Wouldn't engage leaving Hoth. broke down in the asteroid field and was later revealed to have been deliberately disabled by Imperial technicians while the ship sat inside the Executor. In-universe records put the Falcon's hyperdrive failure rate at 1.22 times that of the comparable YT-2400 freighter. The backup drive takes weeks or months to reach the nearest star system. Lando Calrissian's Falcon, before Han won it at Sabacc, was more luxurious, better appointed, more personalized. Han then modified it into the ship with one refresher and a chess table. The Falcon is a legend. As a home, it would exhaust you within a year. At number 6, the Razor Crest, ST-70M-111, former gunship, Din Djarin's transport across 2 seasons of The Mandalorian. 1 sleeping bunk, 1 refresher, referred to in dialogue as a vac tube, confirmed on screen in Season 2. 1 weapons locker, 1 carbon-freezing chamber for storing bounties, fitted as a standard feature, which is the most clarifying detail about whose priorities shaped the interior. No dedicated galley visible across 2 full seasons. Din eats rations. The Razor Crest covers the minimum a human needs to survive: sleep, sanitation, and was built for catching criminals. That's the complete pitch. Here is where the list turns. Number 5, the Ghost. Hera Syndulla's VCX-100 light freighter, 43.7 meters long, is the most thoroughly documented lived-in ship in current Disney Star Wars. 4 individual crew cabins confirmed from Rebels itself and its visual guides. Hera forward left, Kanan forward right, Sabine rear left, Zeb and Ezra sharing rear right. A common room and galley where the crew eat together across multiple episodes. A cockpit that functions as a genuine social space. When StarWars.com developed the official HasLab Ghost model, the team specifically prioritized the cockpit, the lounge area, the crew quarters, as the spaces that define what the ship is. Not the guns, the rooms. Sabine Wren's cabin is covered floor to ceiling in her own artwork, the most personalized sleeping space anywhere in the saga. Ezra's arrangement for most of Season 1 is the forward gun turret. He upgrades eventually. The Ghost is rated for 4 crew and 6 passengers. At full Spectre cell capacity, it houses 5 organics and a droid full-time. 1 bathroom shared among them, 1 month of consumables before resupply. Tight. But this is the only ship in Star Wars where you can feel people actually living across years, arguing over meals, marking their territory, building something together. Studio apartment tier, absolutely. A real one. Number 4 is a ship most people have seen 100 times without once thinking about where to sleep on it. The H-type Nubian yacht. Padme uses it in Attack of the Clones for the journey from Coruscant to Naboo to Tatooine to Geonosis. Multiple weeks of travel. 47.9 meters long. Class 0.9 hyperdrive. 8 passengers. 2 months of consumables. Strong deflector shields. No weapons. The official Star Wars databank describes it plainly. The H-type Nubian yacht was a vessel where, what it lacked in weapons, it made up for in style and a strong deflector shield. Older reference material describes private cabins and a shared lounge, background material rather than confirmed current canon, but what the films establish is sufficient on its own. An unarmed vessel used for extended, multi-week, dignified travel, built entirely around 8 people living well. Unarmed, fast, 2 months self-sufficient, no military profile to invite attack. Almost nobody discusses this ship as a place to live. They really should. Number 3, the Tantive 4. CR-90 Corellian corvette, registered as the Alderaan Diplomatic Envoy, opens the entire Star Wars saga being chased by an Imperial Star Destroyer. Catastrophic operational context, but the most dramatic thing that ever happened to it. Capacity: 46 crew, 39 officials, roughly 100 passengers. Older historical records give it living quarters, formal dining rooms, and conference rooms. Background lore rather than confirmed Disney-era canon, but current sources establish the interior as utilitarian, with subtle luxury for Alderaanian officials, and secondary accounts confirm it hosted state dinners with senators. No barracks design, because it was never conceived as a warship. Resistance personnel who operated from the Tantive 4 later in the saga used it as a base simply because it had existing rooms to live in. Good self-sufficiency for its class, real accommodation built for real people, a mission profile built entirely around diplomacy and passenger dignity. The first ship we see in Star Wars, and the first one on this list where the question of raising a family aboard doesn't immediately end in horror. Number 2 is the Venator-class Star Destroyer, Republic-era, Clone Wars period. Built for a government that had not yet made fear its primary design philosophy, and that difference shows up in how the ship actually functions as a place. The Clone Wars, Disney canon, depicts Venators with clone troopers eating together in organized mess halls, socializing between missions, medical bays, and training areas in active, regular use. Older reference material puts the Venator's crew count significantly lower per meter of hull than the Imperial class, suggesting considerably more space per person. Those figures predate the current Disney canon, so treat them as indicative, but the on-screen depiction holds independently. A Venator was built to win wars for a republic. An Imperial class was built to project terror on behalf of an empire. Those different purposes produce fundamentally different environments for the 37,000 people sleeping inside them. And number 1, the Mon Calamari cruiser, specifically the MC-80A Home 1 class and its variants. The origin is the entire argument. The MC-80A was originally designed as a deep space exploration vessel for Mon Calamari before conversion to war. The MC-75 subclass, the cruisers at Scarif and Exegol, were Mon Calamari city ships used as passenger liners and civilian transport before being retrofitted with weapons. That civilian foundation doesn't vanish when you bolt on turbo lasers. The official StarWars.com databank describes a Mon Calamari cruiser as one that lacks hard angles and is covered with ovoid forms suggesting an organic sculpture. Every ship was individually sculpted. No two are exactly alike. The volume designed for passenger accommodation and extended civilian habitation persists into the military configuration because the hull was built around it. 2 years of consumables, over 5,000 crew. The foundational design question was what it feels like to carry people across deep space. Pre-Disney Expanded Universe reference material describes the Home 1 as containing an atrium at its center, with a lake and vegetation from Mon Calamari. Older background lore, but the underlying logic is confirmed by what we know for certain. A converted passenger liner carries the priorities of civilian habitation in its bones. One historical account of Mon Calamari ship design notes they converted a beautiful starliner into a combat vessel, covering its structure with battle armor. The starliner came first. An Imperial Star Destroyer was built to make civilizations afraid. A Mon Calamari cruiser was built to carry people across deep space and then reluctantly went to war. The distance between those two ships is the distance between somewhere you could grow old and somewhere you'd count the days until reassignment. When the war's over, and in that story it's always about the war, somebody still has to live somewhere. Somebody has to pick a bunk, find a galley they don't hate, and spend the next 40 years inside a machine built for everything except being a home. The galaxy never asks which ship that should be. It only ever asks which one wins the fight. But you're not going to spend your life in a dogfight. You're going to spend it in a corridor, eating the same breakfast, looking out the same viewport, if you're lucky enough to have one. The best ship in Star Wars was never the one that could destroy the most. It was the one you could be happy on after the shooting stopped. And almost nobody in that galaxy ever got to find out which one that was. Subscribe for more stories like this.